All right, thank you for attending tonight's panel. Tonight's the second event in Becoming, which is an ongoing partnership between IGDA Seattle and Diversity Collective to highlight diverse leaders throughout the video game industry. IGDA Seattle is a chapter of the International Game Developers Association, a professional association and global network of game developers with the mission of empowering game developers around the world to achieve fulfilling and sustainable careers. Diversity Collective is a community within Seattle Indies with the mission of supporting diversity and inclusion for minorities in game development. We have the opportunity tonight to learn from 5 experienced and diverse creative leaders. Each and every one of them is eager to share their story with you. Post your questions to Twitch, and the moderators will ask them during the Q&A section. Also, as a heads up, Seattle Indies and the law firm of Premack Rogers are sponsoring a $500 donation in honor of this evening's panelists. The panelists have nominated 5 organizations, and you will have the opportunity to vote on which one of them will actually receive the donation. Thank you again to all the panelists for joining us, and thank you to the IGDA for rehosting tonight's event. I hope you will find tonight's panel both educational and encouraging as you pursue your own careers. And thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Sarah and Fernando.
Hello, welcome people watching, welcome panelists. This is our second installation of the Becoming series panels, like Ben said. We'll start just by doing introductions. My name is Sarah Bellhumer. I'll be moderating with Fernando. In my day job, I'm a game artist and technical artist at Spry Fox. I'm also a board member of the Seattle Indies and a co-founder of the Diversity Collective community who's co-hosting the panel today. And I'll pass it off to Fernando, who will be moderating with me.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Fernando. I will be one of the moderators in today's panel. On my day job, I am a multiplayer designer at 343 Industries. So working in Halo. I'm also a board member of Latinx in Gaming, which is an organization that focuses on helping the Latinx community to succeed in the gaming industry. So very excited to hear everyone's stories today. So how about we start with Bill, that is next to me in my screen.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Fernando. Thanks, Sarah. What a great group of people to talk with. I've got started about 26 years ago at what was actually a little company at the time called Blizzard Entertainment. And I've had I feel like a really fortunate career to have worked with just like so many incredible people. At Blizzard, I had my own studio for about 5 years called Flagship. We had a team up in Seattle, which is when I got to kind of know and love this part of the country. I worked at Cryptic Studios. I worked at Disney for 5.5 years, which was pretty much a dream come true. And then after living in California my whole life, took a 2-year adventure in London to work over there with probably amazingly the most diverse team ever, just like so many countries represented, which is just ridiculously fantastic. But moved back to the States a little over about 1.5 years ago to join AuthorDigital and now Adept Games with our CEO, Serena Robar. I love the studio. I love the fact that we're 35% women, just really huge focus on bringing in voices from everywhere and anywhere. I feel like as an old white guy in the games industry, it is like my job to help amplify and bring people in. So thank you all for having me be a part of this. I'm super excited.
Thank you for that, Bill. Tramell?
Damn, you picked me to go after Bill.
I'm just following the screen order, man.
Yeah, I hear you. It's all good. It's all good. Hi, everybody. I'm Tramell Ray Isaac. I am the Vice President of Art over at IllFonic. I also have been in the game industry for about 26 years, going on 27. And started as an animator and worked my way up to art director, and eventually led to this position at IllFonic. We've got a great bunch of guys and girls working on some hot titles. Predator Hunting Grounds is the title that we just shipped this year, and I hope everybody's out there playing it. And thank you for having me on this panel. So I really appreciate it, and hope someone gets some vital information out of this.
Thanks, Tramell. Kelly, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Kelly Devine. I'm the principal at Super Secret Plan A. We are an art outsourcing house. I have a team of 8 people, and we're artists and animators. We make all kinds of art assets for games, virtual worlds, AR and VR experiences. I've been working in video games for about almost 9 years now, which I stumbled into completely by accident. I had no idea. It had never occurred to me to wonder how video games were made. It's like opening a closet door and walking into another universe. I'm so glad I found it. I wish I had known about it sooner. I've been working in creative pursuits my entire life. I was a professional dancer when I was young. I moved from that into, I got a degree from UC Berkeley that did nothing to help me become a professional photographer. I was a commercial photographer for about 10 years. Had a baby, which threw a lot of things into a different place, accidentally found my way into special effects, and from there into games. I'm so happy I'm here. So what I do now is creative direction around themes and art, specifically for games for women. So even if I'm working for a client whose game is not for women, I'm tucking that in everywhere I possibly can, because it can be very subtle. And everything is a step forward. Bill, I liked what you said about it's the old white guys. All of this has to come from the top. I mean, it should not be on those of us struggling to make this happen. It needs to be the old white guys at the top, because if that doesn't change, it's just struggle.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Kelly. Looking forward to hear more about that that path that you went to and stumbled into games. Ling, can you go next?
Sure, thanks, Fernando. Like everyone else, I'm super happy to be here. My name is Ling Tan, and I'm sitting out in the East Coast, specifically in Montreal in Canada, and I'm a senior designer with Google Stadia. I got my start in the industry about 16 years ago in Malaysia, halfway across the world. It was a fledgling industry for us there. So I have a bit to share about my experience getting into the industry. I worked for a number of years with companies like Ubisoft, and that's where I traveled to a few different locations around the world. I worked in Singapore, I worked in Paris, and then in Montreal. And I've worked at EA as well. Most recently shipped Hyperscape, and right before coming to join Google Stadia. So I hope that my journey, slightly different from everyone else, will hopefully be inspiring for those who are listening tonight.
Thank you. Last but not least, Arif Kinchen.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me well. I am Arif S. Kinchen, hailing out of Los Angeles, California. I came into this game like everybody else in LA. I started off doing extra work, started off with film roles and TV and things of the sort. And then work started to change, and the opportunity came about, and I was blessed enough to get into Tony Hawk. So judging by IMDb, I've been doing this for 17 years. I think I've been doing it longer because games take a long time to come out, but it says 16 years. So I'm gonna say 17 for the year buffer. And I'm gonna ask May for the cheat codes to Hyperscape because I was gonna download it.
I think we are all going to ask that. So yeah, let's get started with the first question, right?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about it a little bit about what your first step into the game industry was and introductions, but especially a few of you have really different ways that you found games. And I was wondering if any of you could talk about how you found that first opportunity and what support systems you had that you relied on in the beginning.
I guess I'll jump on that one. Seems how everybody else is asleep. Yeah, so I started off, I went to school as an animator, and, I had been playing video games since I was a kid. So, video games weren't, foreign to me, but my intention was, at the time, because, we're talking about way, 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 way back in the day. And my intention was just to get in TV and to animate for cartoons and movies and things like that. And I happened to have an alumni that went to a game company, and they needed another animator. So when I graduated, probably like a year after I graduated, and I was still working on my portfolio, they contacted the school and asked if they knew, had any, decent graduates. And I came to mind, and that was my opportunity to get in the industry with that opportunity. So if this person hadn't gone to this company and hadn't been successful at that company, I probably wouldn't have gotten to the industry. So it was just kind of like this weird coincidence. Like I said, I've been playing video games since I was 5. So, and drawing since I was 4. So like all of that stuff kind of like collided together, and and that was the beginning of it, 1994.
I feel like I share a little bit of my like origin with Tramell. We got started the same year, 94. I had a friend who from university who was at Blizzard, who was an artist there, and said, "Hey, we need somebody to do some music on a game," because I was a music major at college. And my day job at that time was working at a Kinko's Copy doing desktop publishing. So I did that as my day job. And at night I did music for a game called Blackthorn. And partway through that contract, they said they also needed voiceover for a video they were putting together to show off this new game they were making called Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. So I slammed together a demo tape and put that in and did that and did the music. And then when I got to the end of that contract, I basically just begged my way into the company. Like I wrote a letter saying like, I'll do anything. This is so long ago. I'll run your bulletin board system. I'll do tech support. Like I'll wash your car. I don't care what it is. I promised Mike Morheim, who was the VP there at the time, my Rock Hydra card, because Magic the Gathering was like brand new, right? Like anything to get the gig. And much like Tramell was saying, like I knew somebody, they got me the opportunity. I think then you have to go in and earn it to do it. But, really it was about, knowing someone. A foot in the door was huge, probably, really still is. But yeah, that was a big deal. Just getting the chance to try to do something.
Yeah, I find that very interesting because like for me, that's how I feel, right? Like I wouldn't be in the position that I am in without the help of others, like especially at the beginning, like there's no way of getting that first chance. So my question to the rest of the group is like, who do you think it was like your like kind of like your most important or like the biggest contributor to your early career growth once you were already inside in, once you were just starting? How did you like kind of like did the next step after you got in?
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead, Arif.
From the actor side of it, it's your agent mainly, but I have to give 2 definitive people, Keith Aram over at PCB Entertainment. They had a lot of faith in me. They brought me in a lot. As an actor, you need someone that can be a buffer between you and the developer. And then once you get in front of the developer and the writers and everything, then chemistry takes its own way and it works out. So you got Keith over at PCB, and then you also have Douglas Carrigan, who's a voiceover director, but he came from Disney as well as Bill. He was over there, did a lot of the Imagineering type stuff. And he put me in Saints Row. Like he basically told them, no, he's your guy. Like I remember auditioning for something, but it's not what I got. And then here we go, 20 years later, I've been part of a franchise. So it really takes people on the inside, and those are my 2 guys.
I can add a little bit, about my experience, both getting into the industry and just being able to sustain a career in the industry. I got in through IGDA in Malaysia. So they had like a local chapter. And back when I first started, the industry was really small. So, it was pretty tight knit. I was fresh out of school. Just being in the circle and constantly being the one who's curious and just asking a lot of questions. I think it kind of left a mark, amongst the games community there. And I think, over time, that was how I managed to, get my first job and to be able to continue, working on different games and in different companies in Malaysia, before finally being able to move into Ubisoft in Singapore. Also, pretty much through the same connections, right? Like it's getting the foot in the door and then, having kind of like a presence in the industry there by being active and taking part in a lot of the initiatives that were taking place during that time in the local scene pretty much. So yeah, like mingling and being curious, putting yourself out there, volunteering a lot as well for different events that kind of helps you get to know a lot more people. That was my experience getting into the industry and staying there.
For me, I was already working in special effects, which is a different story, but was looking for a job. The company that I've been working with had a long dry spell, and the person running it said, not sure what else is going to happen. You should start looking for another gig. I was looking for another gig, and a friend who ran an independent game development studio said, I'm trying to find 3 different part-time people to do 3 different things that you could do in your sleep. Why don't you come work with us? And I thought, well, okay. What became clear is that all these skills that I had, I can organize people, I can organize stuff. I have a very strong visual sense. I know how to write. So it turns out these are all laterally transferable skills. And so I started out, I was really nervous the first year because thinking, well, what do I know from video games? And the longer I was there, the more it became clear that those moments where I was like, you maybe should be looking at this. And I would shut up because I was afraid to say something. And later on in the meeting, it would become clear I should have spoken up because that never got addressed. So it took getting used to being in the industry itself to see that all this information that I already had and all these skills that I already had were perfectly useful here. That's how I ended up in this industry.
I think this is awesome. It's like we had a similar track that showed up on our first panel, which was that there's not one direct path into game development, and there's so many different ways to get in and so many different on-ramps from different directions in different industries where skills are transferable, like you're talking about, Kelly. I want to ask for juniors who are just getting into the industry now and maybe don't have the same kind of connections that we're talking about as being a good on-ramp in. They're doing the cold apply and sending in their portfolios and resumes. And often marginalized artists need to work like twice as hard to get the same visibility as cis white applicants, or to get an interview through that method. So I'm curious, like for any of you who are hiring in your studios or have hired before, what do you look for in cold applications and portfolios and in people that you're interviewing or meeting for the first time in order to build a good team and diversify your culture?
I'm actually going to take this one. I would say, first off, go to meetups. I'm not sure who said that it ends up being, I think Arif said it ends up being chemistry. You're going to meet somebody and know you want to work with them. Go to meetups. They're incredibly useful. You never know who you're going to meet. It might be somebody who you work with immediately. It might be somebody who in 5 years is going to say, oh, wait a minute, I don't make that kind of game, but I know this dude who does. That's how you're going to end up. Keep going, keep talking to people, distribute your business cards like they are candy. Just meet as many people as possible. It's hard if you're an introvert. Just summon up that hour's worth of energy and do it anyway. Okay. That's what I would say in terms of like how to get into the industry. it's okay to be a beginner. Everybody's a beginner somewhere. Where are you going to start, right?
Yeah, I would say, to piggyback off of that, you got to put in the work. You got to want it like more than you want everything else. Because the bottom line is like that, you just imagine what your graduating class looks like, right? You're competing with that group and then all of the groups all around the world. So you take your 30 people that you graduated and you multiply it by 1,000. That's the group that you're competing with, let alone don't even, begin to start counting the people that are already in the industry and then moving around in the different avenues and different companies. So there's a lot of competition out there. So in addition to, mingling and getting people and getting to know people and things like that, you got to work on your craft, because it doesn't matter who you know if your work is garbage. So like in addition to that, you got to work on your mental faculties. I see a lot of people in here who aren't willing to put in the work. I'm not talking about crunch culture or anything like that. We're talking about training yourself and being better than the next person. Because as a Black person, I've seen how I need to be 120, where everybody else has to be at 100 or maybe even 90%. Because the work speaks for itself. So you can't deny, like if you ask anybody that knows me, they can't deny that I put in the work. So you got to be willing to do that. And if you're not mentally prepared to do whatever it is that it takes to get into the industry and stay there, then you might as well just, work at Macy's or some shit.
I can add to what Tramell, really eloquently described about putting in the extra work. If we get a cold application from someone, right out of school, what you should have in your CV should be more than just your schoolwork, right? Like the only work that you should have on your CV shouldn't be what the 40 other people in your class have also got on their resume. You have to go the extra mile. You have to go and prove that you're putting in the hours to learn and improve yourself, and let your curiosity drive you, but also let it show up in your portfolio and what you're applying for. So a lot of times when we're looking at what applicants are sending in, we try to find relevancy to what it is that the role requires, right? So if we're looking to have a specific role being filled by a certain type of designer, we want to see that the applicant at least has some form of interest in the area, some form of passion in the particular area, and that shows through their portfolio and the work that they've put in. So yeah, for those who don't even have a foot in the door or don't have the connection, let your work speak for yourself. So yeah.
My next question is it's kind of important for me because I get this question a lot from members of leadership positions, or like members of like studio heads or things like that, when they talk about what they can do. Like we were mentioning before, like it's really important to like that the help comes from up to down, rather than the ones struggling trying to help each other, right? So now that you kind of like have like made it, right? Like what are the types of things that you can do that like to help others that you couldn't do before, that you would recommend to people in big positions to help communities in a disadvantage?
I'll jump in. One, like always listen, like always actively listen, right? It's so important. You get, and like I kind of have an open door policy, not just when we're in an office and now on a virtual office, but like even on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is, find me, DM me, right? Like I will find the time to provide some feedback, to offer some thoughts, to whatever, have a conversation, like, tell you, yes, keep doing it. Just do, go make stuff. Because I think that was a big thing that was important to me when I got started. It's not like, Alan and Mike and and Frank and these folks were a lot older, a lot more experienced, but they had made some games. I got started there, and they immediately just like, oh yeah, we're all going to do this together, right? It wasn't. It was, I think, a different time. Maybe definitely, I was part of a meritocracy. You got to advance if you did good work. To echo what everybody else was saying, right? Like talent and hard work pay off more than anything. But on the flip side, when you get to a position where you can offer people that opportunity, it shouldn't be something that you hold up that they need to jump up and attain, right? Like I've tried to get into companies in my career where that happens, where it feels like I got to jump through so many hoops and I've got to do this, when it should be something that people that have been there and have experienced it and been on that road should be helping people up, right? Because you're always going to be on the way down, right? I've had a company that failed. I went through selling my house and, having to pay bills and all those kinds of things. So I think you always have to remember where you came from. And then when you're in a position to help others and listen to others, like you have to do that. I feel like it's our responsibility. One of the things I love about what we do at our studio is we have a very direct mentorship for people that come in. So it's not a hierarchical, many-tiered structure, right? People that have been in this industry for 20, 30, 35 years at our studio are working directly with interns, are working directly with juniors, with associates and everything, because that's really important, right? It shouldn't be, how do I get 5 minutes with this person's time? It's like, I want to work on a project with them. I want to get feedback from them on what I'm trying to do. So like, to me, that's the single most important thing I think you can do when you get in any kind of that type of position, is actually take the time and listen to people and work with people, and not make it a status thing, because that's bull.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to piggyback a little bit on what Bill was saying, is when you get into a position like you guys are in, what I've learned over the years is when the new guy comes in or the new gal comes in, the greatest part of it is they bring something new, and that helps everybody out. Because if you're sitting in the same room with the same 5 people for 10, 15 years, you guys have each other's thoughts after a while. When you bring someone new and the resume looks good, they put something extra, like May said, Tramell said, if they put the work in and you can tell it, then give the kid a shot. Why do you bring them in to have them sit? It just seems weird. You know what I mean? And that's just what I've learned from my friends that are developers and writers. So that's my little 2 cents real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, much like what Bill was talking about, when you've got to understand that, as a person, when you say you've made it, you've never really made it. Like Bill just described his path, and it was filled with ups and downs, and he was supposed to be the guy who made it. Nobody really makes it. You make it. Every game you make, the next game is a challenge. It's the exact same challenge. It's a redo. You have to start it over. So the hustle never stops. So when you get new people in, and if you're looking at them as if, oh, I'm here and you're there, the 9 times out of 10 you'll probably be working for that person if you ain't on your P's and Q's. So you gotta look at this as a constant hustle. So they're in the same boat as you. Like, everybody's equal. Like, yeah, you may have 15 years and some old school knowledge that might be applicable, but this new person might have the new hotness that you're not up on yet. So, you got to look at it like, okay, what are they bringing to the table, and what can I learn from them? And how do I stay relevant by continuing to work hard, but not putting myself above others? So, longevity in this industry requires that you be humble, and that you recognize that, pardon my French, that you ain't shit. You're just like everybody else. So you constantly have to put that work in.
Hear, hear. I completely agree with what Tramell said. My statement would be, hire women, hire Black folks, hire people of color. For God's sake, just hire them. If you need, a very clever friend recently said, if you're looking for some unicorn engineer who does this specific thing, you're not going to sit and wait and hope they show up. You're going to put an ad. You're going to go look for them. Make the effort to make your culture look different. To Arif's point, if you're sitting in the same room with this same bunch of people forever, you're going to keep making the same thing. And guess what? We're all finding out, some of us already knew this, that if you broaden the viewpoint, you're going to get games that make everybody happy. I mean, everybody, let's look at movies. Everybody loved Black Panther. Wonder Woman was a hit. There's so many, Captain Marvel. We're seeing differences happening now. And now I think with Black Lives Matter and the amount of change that is happening, courtesy of this ridiculous pandemic, is accelerating this stuff. Let's seize this moment and keep going, please.
And from the acting standpoint, purely as a performer, as Kelly can probably attest, having people give us a shot, no matter what, us as performers, because 9 times out of 10, I never understood the big deal of actors and actresses. I always said, we're all actors, right? I thought we were just, why you got to put different things on the back of it? Because people wanted to put a label on it. But when people work hard and you come in and they're like, well, you don't really sound the type, meaning I don't sound urban enough. What we found out through the Hollywood Reporter over the summer is that there was a whole lot of people that weren't the right race doing stuff. I myself am victim to it. I apologize to all the Caucasian men I portrayed in Remember the Titans. I'm a bad man and I'll keep getting my residuals. But it was, at the time we didn't know any better, but now that we know better, we got to do better. And we got to get, like I said, all the time, bring in something fresh, something new, give it a shot. Worst that can happen is it doesn't work because you already know what you got. You can always go back, but how about trying to go forward and see what you get? Because you might get gold. That's just me.
This is a good segue into my next question about continuing learning throughout your career and changing as things change. And this is important to me as well as somebody who's more in their mid-career. And I want to ask how you avoid a plateau in your skills when you're mid-career, how you continue career advancement and continued education as you're learning. Basically, how do you leverage the quality of your experience with the years of experience?
I think you always, for me, I always set goals for myself. And then I recognize the years that I didn't set goals, they were probably my worst years because mentally I'm like meandering. I'm not actually working toward a particular thing. So I think if you're always working towards something, no matter what it is, becoming a better artist, becoming a better art director, becoming a better lead, becoming a better manager altogether, like whatever it is, always have a goal in front of you, at least a couple of those, until when you get there, you'll have something else to work on. For me, my goal coming into the industry for some stupid reason was, I want to be an art director. I had no idea what I was talking about, but I just wanted that thing. And then when I got there, I was lost for like 2-3 years because that was the thing that I wanted, but I didn't think beyond it. So you got to, look at your career. I mean, when you look at it as a career, you got to always be evolving if you want to continue to do that for X amount of years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever. But you always have to have a goal or else you'll end up kind of, just drifting through this environment and then wondering why the things that you actually want don't actually come to fruition.
Yeah, for me, it's always been 2 things: try something new and try something different. And those aren't the same. Something new for me is like mobile games, when that started to become hot and popular, or Facebook games, or consoles, or something I hadn't done before, right? Still in game design, still in game production, but it was new, right? So I was going to learn a lot by doing that. The something different, a good example is recently I was playing in a tabletop RPG and I wanted to make an intro sequence for our game. So I learned Adobe Premiere. So then I could like put together this video that I can share with everybody, like, oh, because it was a Star Trek game. So I'm like, oh, cool, look at this, it's our ship and the whole thing. Because I wanted to get new skills, but then I find that those always come back. Because 2 weeks ago, we wanted to put together a video to show some publishers. And I was like, oh, I can put that together. I can put together a presentation video, right? And I'll do the voiceover on it and we'll send it out. Same thing when I learned how to do like really simple web design at one point for a game I was playing. I was like, oh, this is cool. I don't know how to do this. This is totally new. This is different. It's not even new. It's different. I've never tried that. And then that was right before we started Flagship Studios. And then we needed a website. It was like, I could put a website up, right? So it's like, it's weird how it all weaves back and forth, whether that's music, whether that's art, whether that's, even something like geocaching, like any of this stuff, I think really helps you in your career because it helps you grow. It helps you look at things differently. It helps you approach problems from different creative angles. So for me, like that's been the two things that I've tried to do over my career.
Yeah, I think like, the path that I'm taking is pretty much, very close to what Bill is describing as well. For me, it's just setting a goal for myself where it's less of a career goal and more of, the kind of products that I want to build. So for me, it's a goal of mine to, build games that are a lot more inclusive, a lot more accessible by more a diverse, a diverse group of people, right? So what I'm trying to do right now is we have, a lot of interesting training modules in making products a lot more equal at Google. So Google is great at building, like accessible products with their phones and software, etc. And that's something that, I feel that video games we're slightly behind. So, it's leveraging all these existing training and tools that are available at Google as a software company and bringing that over to video games, right? And then this is something that we can really push in the industry. And it kind of like became a personal goal for myself. And, it's always a very interesting learning experience because this is not something that I'm very used to being in the game industry for a while. So yeah, like setting these sorts of like aspirational goals, even with the type of products we want to build, it's a great way to push ourselves to learn new skills, software, etc., to get on that path.
Awesome. I'm going to get a question from the chat because I think it's one of my favorite questions to ask every time I meet like a creative director or somebody leading creative people. And it's like, the question is, how do you like become a good leader for them, right? Like, how do you establish a good culture in the team where like everybody can be heard and everybody can do their best work, but at the same time, like give them enough vision so they don't wander around. Like, I think it's always very hard to strike that balance, right? Between like being very prescriptive with your designs or letting people to be creative. So what are your thoughts on that?
All right. Too much silence. I think for me, my approach is usually just understanding human nature in a lot of ways, and thinking about the person first. It's not, the work is the work. It's always going to be there. It's never, it's never going to change. It's always going to be something to do. But especially now, if you don't understand humans have other stuff to do, their life does not revolve around work. There's obviously some people that love to work, but the bottom line is, if you don't comprehend or understand that, people bring in their problems, they bring in baggage, they bring in all these other things that are probably not even associated with you or you as a director or manager. But these are the things that you have to consider when you're talking about managing somebody. You're not just managing one size fits all. You know, every person's different. If you don't take the time to understand who that person is, there's no way that you will be able to lead a team full of different people. You know, like my approach to Kelly might be completely different than my approach to Bill, because they're different people. They came from different backgrounds. They understand a different set of rules that they came up in. And I have to be the person to learn those rules so I can meet them where they are, as opposed to the expectation is some managers, which are, you know, poor managers in my eye, where they think that everybody should meet them where they are. So if you take that into consideration, is that 50% of that communication comes from you. It means you have to do that work. And then the expectation is that they come the other 50%, and then you can have a dialogue. But you have to do that work. You have to lay that groundwork and you know, lay that foundation for a good relationship by understanding who they are, where they came from, and what type of experiences they bring to the table.
I think that was a really, really good point. And one of my million jobs that I had getting through school, I had probably every mostly legal service job you could possibly have. And one of the things that you have to be able to do if you work in the service industry is walk up to the table or the bar or wherever you are and instantly in about 7 seconds understand on a global level what this person in front of you wants. And it's something that you have to intuit. And if I take my experience with that, of which I have plenty, and back up and think about people who managed me, every job is going to teach you something, even if it's what you don't want to do. And if you are willing to, for me, I think it's really important to have an actual team. I actually care about teamwork. There are some people who want to run the team and do it their way, and they're a despot, benevolent or not. For me, if you don't want to be part of a team, and that means showing up and working and bringing your whole self. If your whole self is having a crappy day, everybody's going to cope because you're still part of the team and you're still there doing your thing. Everybody participating as part of it is important. There's moments where you have to be the one who says, today I'm the benevolent despot, because here's what really needs to get done, and helps drive some of the focus. But for the most part, if you have a team of people who are truly committed to what they're doing, you're going to create something pretty cool. I tend to believe that people who are especially creative individuals need a little bit of space. You need wiggle room. To Tramell's point, you have a life outside of work, right? If you need to come in late that day because you had to go to a parent-teacher conference, whatever, we're going to be fine. Come in and join us when you're ready. And I firmly believe that kind of I almost said parenting, that kind of leading a team is the kind of thing that gets respect. Respect earns respect.
But Kelly, leading a team is parenting, though. Like that's really true, right? Because you have to ride that line of being a friend, but then also being the person who's in charge, right? Because things do have to get done. You have to be understanding and caring, and look back on your childhood, if you would, right? And how your parents reacted to you. And like you said, what was good and what was bad about that. One of the things that Tramell said that really resonated with me is that like having to meet people halfway, right? Like you have to understand what they're going through. I know I'm a weird boss sometimes because I really tend to wear my emotions on my sleeve, which a lot of times, right, effective leadership is all about maintaining a very even keel, right? Not having big ups, not having big downs. So you provide that stability for your team, which is important, but I'm a person too, right? So if I'm having a rough day, like I will at least hopefully have enough self-awareness to say like, hey, I'm having a pretty hard day today. So I'm just letting you know where I'm coming from, right? So if I'm being like really to the point and really brusque today, that's not because it's anything anybody here's done. That's just where my head's at. And I think that from the flip side is when you're working with people, if you recognize that, especially as you work more and more with a team and you know the individuals, I think it's okay to say, oh, hey, is everything okay today? Like, you know, do you need some space today? Is there something I can do? Right? You have to have that empathy, like empathy in leadership is really important, just like in parenting, right? Like I'm in my 50s. I have a 4-year-old. Man, he rugs me ragged, and he's also like super smart and super creative. And sometimes I really have to work to remember he's 4, right? Because he's smart. And I'm like, but where's your emotional, like, oh, right, you're 4. You don't have that. I got to remember that, right? It's the same thing, not with 4-year-olds and people we work with, but like where they're at, what they've been going through, right? And try to put yourself, in their shoes a bit. That's like the single biggest thing I think that good managers and good leaders bring to the table is empathy for the people they work with.
Given that we're talking about like parenting and having a family, I want to ask, like, one of the biggest issues for people later in their career is that there are a lot of off ramps in this industry, and I think more off ramps than on ramps, especially later in your career. And I'm curious what advice you have for somebody who has had to leave the industry, whether for family leave or they've left to go back to school. What advice do you have for them for re-entering the industry?
Stay prepared.
I've been waiting for this question. I've been waiting for this question. So as I said, I started my career not in video games and had a baby. The baby is now 15 and trying to kill me. But where I'm at right now with that is when the baby went to preschool and I was trying to figure out how it was I was going to go back to what I was doing, which was photography, which is very hard to do with a toddler. You can't, especially back then, this was still mostly film. This is how long ago this was. The thing you have to do is look for the other women. The reason I ended up working in special effects is another mom who had worked at ILM for many, many years and was a very talented special effects artist was like, I'm starting a new studio because all of our kids are in preschool now. So now we can start to do something else. Guess what? It was a studio of 5 women. 4 of us had kids under 5 years old. The 5th was 7 months pregnant. We cranked. The idea that women are not useful after they've had children is, to be perfectly honest, childish. For a kid, the kid believes that you sprang into existence the moment that they did. They have no idea of the 30-odd years beforehand when you were, super talented or a dirtbag or whatever it was you were, right? It's the same principle with people who think, oh, well, women won't be committed. Are you kidding? This is everything I've put my entire life into up until this point. Just because I've exercised my uterus does not mean all of that has gone out the window or drained out my ear. So we cranked. We would take everybody to preschool, drop them all off, go to the office that I painted, thank you, and crank on whatever film clip or commercial or thing that we were doing right then. We would then all go between 3 and 5, pick up all the kids, go home, do the thing you do with the parenting, and then if we were in full crank mode, we would all then go back to the studio after handing off the baby to the other parent. This lasted for a long time. Up until I ended up working in video games, right? It's something, look for the other women. That's where you're going to get it. My friend who started the studio was having a really hard time getting back into her work. So she started her own studio. Guess what? I now run my own studio and it's good. Nobody can fire me. Things are going fine. I'm still in charge of this, but it really bugs me that this is the only option. Also, to Bill's point, I'm now over 50. If I go out and try to find a job in games, nobody is calling me back. And that's really a pity because it's throwing all of that out the window. I hope that look for the other women. That's what I would say.
I think this is a really interesting point because it also connects to advice. That's how you get into the industry at the first time. It's like you need those people that are your allies, that are like they're your friends, they're your allies, they're helping you out and you're working together. And that's how you get in, whether you're just starting or whether you're trying to get back in from a different point in your life. Fernando, pass it to you. I think you have a question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I see a couple of themes on the questions that the audience are asking. So the question is basically, when do you know if somebody is ready for a leadership position, right? When it changes from just being a good IC to being ready to manage people or being ready to start their own studio kind of like do that jump? What is that threshold? What is that moment when you see that?
I can jump in. It's usually, when we see someone really taking a lot of initiative and going above and beyond what their role would usually ask them for, right? This is someone who already exhibits a heart for people, a heart for the team. They're already doing a lot of mentorship work, whether, it's within the job itself or they're doing it outside of work. But these are people who already are going the extra mile, right? Like they're doing way more than what you're tasking them to do. A lot of times these are people who are also the glue for the team. We don't give enough emphasis to people who behave as, the person who, takes care of the team, who shepherds the team outside of what you would expect them to do. These are people who, you want to keep an eye out for. They have a heart for leadership. They're already exhibiting that. They're the ones, we should really promote, because it's very easy to just, hone in on the rock star of the team. It's very easy to, look at purely performance and hard skill and just value that. But oftentimes those skills don't necessarily make for a good leader, because, as we've heard tonight from Tramell, from Bill, from Kelly, like over and over, the theme of being a good leader isn't necessarily just having good hard skills. It's having, well, it's super cheesy, but hard skills, right? Like, things that come from your heart, having a real desire to nurture the people who are under you. So yeah, that for me, is a key that, to making a good leader, and time to promote someone is when they're already behaving in that manner.
Yeah, I like to add to that. So I promote people to lead when they realize that they can't do it by themselves, and that's basically it. I mean, bottom line, if you recognize that your only way to success is through the efforts and the abilities of 5 to 10 people that are on your team or whatever the size is, then you'll cherish that. Beyond that, if you're not at the point where you can mentally wrap your mind around supporting and sustaining a team of people that pretty much are going to be doing the meat of the work, then yeah, you're not ready. So I'm looking for somebody that can separate themselves from the product and be the person that steps back and allows things to happen, of course with their guidance, but not necessarily the person that's going to be pulling the trigger on everything or doing everything or trying to take on too much. Because if you jump into that position with that mindset, you're going to fail.
This is probably the last question we have before I move on to taking more questions from the chat. But I'm curious, what success looks like for you now, for you and your teams? What goals are you working towards?
Making games for women.
Good goal.
For us, for us at IllFonic, it's more about expanding our ability to do bigger and better things, always reaching for something that's beyond our ability to try to stretch what we know and try to learn as much as we possibly can. So our goals are always looking for, the next biggest thing to try to, notch up a little bit higher on the totem pole. Being an independent developer is always, everybody knows it's a little harder for us to kind of, get a leg up. But I think, just as long as we continue to hustle and stay in the struggle, I think we'll eventually get to where we need to be.
Yeah, I think for me and for one of the reasons I'm where I am, not just like as a career, but like the studio I'm at, the people I'm working with, is trying to make something that people are familiar with, but approaching it in like such a different way that it kind of like breathes new life into it. Like one of the things we talk a lot about is connecting people through story and connecting people through through like the worlds and the franchises they're in, regardless of what they play and where they play and how they play it. You know, that was something that we talked a lot about while I was at Disney. That was something that, you know, we really pushed to do with Disney Infinity. If you ever played that, where it was just about like, you know, create your own stories, mix all these characters up. You know, how could you approach creating games and creating a lot of different types of games, but connect them in ways that is meaningful to the players, right? It's something that I've, for like, sounds insane to say, decades, we've talked about how do we do this stuff. And like, that's the big meaty thing we're trying to tackle. So for me at this point, you know, I feel like I'm incredibly lucky. I'll talk with people and they'll say, oh, if you could make any game you wanted to make, what would it be? And I'm like, I got to do that already. Like, it's crazy. I can't believe I can say that, but I'm really lucky. I got to do that a couple of times. So for me now, it's about like, what could I work on and be a part of bringing out into the world that would let people connect with each other and play with each other like how they want to and where they want to and when they want to, right? And experience their like hopefully love of things we make in a really different way. For me, that would be successful. Like, I get no bigger rush than when you talk to someone and they've experienced something you've done, whether it's a game you've made, you know, a character that you've portrayed, and they have a connection to it. They're like, oh, this was so much fun. I really love this. Like, you know, hopefully you make some money doing that as well, because it's a business. But like, that's the thing you remember, right? That's the thing that matters later on. So that's kind of what I'm hoping we capture, you know, one more time around.
Yeah, you were going to say something, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, for me and my team, meaning my wife and my agents, it's kind of like Jerry Maguire. Seriously, it's like I'm the quarterback, I'm the player. They run it. They tell me, hey, you need to get better. You need to do this. Right now, I need to lose some weight, but that's neither here nor there. That's Corona, and probably a lot of waffles. But but for me as an actor, it's staying fluid. And me as a businessman. And I think that from the entertainment side, that's always lost in translation. A lot of entertainers don't know how to make the jump to being a business person, especially when you look at the words, it is show business. So you kind of got to know how to dot the I's and cross the T's. In the last couple of years, like Bill and like Kelly, we all got kids. My daughter's 15. I know she's trying to kill me. I found the paperwork. My son is he's great as well. He's super smart. And I have to learn what Bill talked about of figuring out like, oh, he is a kid. But being able to transition into business, because I've been able to read them and direct them for auditions. I didn't know I had that skill set. And that skill set led to me getting a job, being able to direct an animation piece. And then being able to do something where people are talking to me like, hey, would you like helping me produce this? Yeah, what do I have to do? And then you're calling friends and you're figuring out this next level of your life. You're no longer saying that, oh, what I do and what I love and what I've been trained for is irrelevant, but this is another step, another area for me to go into. And why not move fluidly into it? Once again, I can always go back to what I already know, but I might find some joy on the other side of this, something that may fulfill me. And that's something, hey, maybe I can pass it down to my kids. Maybe I can pass it down to a cousin. Maybe I can pass it down to that one kid at 7-Eleven. Hey, man, you sound like that guy. I am that guy. How do I get into this? You know what? Give me a phone call. Let me tell you some things. You never know what your position is. We are all catalysts for someone at some moment in our life. However minute and finite it might be, we can help someone else. So as you're helping yourself, just remember that your moves are being watched with the eagerness of a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
So,
That after.
oh, May, go ahead.
it's really hard to top that, after like Arif's amazing point. But I just wanted to share like where I'm at, in terms of my career right now. It's also like a lowball like pitch out there. We're building a team out here in Montreal with Stadia. Where so my goal here is to build a really diverse and inclusive team. And that's a goal that we've set out for ourselves, and the kinds of product that we build is hopefully going to speak for itself by having a diverse powerhouse behind the brains of the product. So in ideation, diverse voices count, and this will in turn inform the kind of products that we will build eventually as a studio. So yeah, if you're looking for a job, we're hiring out here.
So I want to make sure that we still have time. We're going to move to the live Q&A. We have a bunch of really good questions stocked up. So I'd like to do this kind of lightning round style. So me and Fernando will go back and forth asking questions. And if just one person who feels like they have a good answer to that question can answer it. And then we'll kind of go like that to make sure that we can get through what everybody's asking. So the first question is, how does work-life balance factor into feeling the pressure to be a model minority? That's a heavy one to start with, I know. They're all really good like this. They're all really good, which is why, yeah. How does work-life balance factor into feeling the pressure to be a model minority? I think this goes to what Tramell was saying earlier about needing to be at 120% when other people can be at 100 or 90.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the model minority is. Like, I don't know what that is. Shoot, I don't. I'm the wrong person to answer this. I don't have any work-life balance at all because I'm focused on one thing, doing it and doing it well, and that's it. Like, my wife is not happy most of the time, so so I'm not going to answer this question at all.
Could maybe take it as like, what are like tips that people have to get good work-life balance?
Be rich.
I can try with this one.
Yes.
I think it's super important that especially as leaders in your team, and I think this extends beyond just being a minority, right? Like in order to be a good leader to your team, you have to set a good example, right? Like it's unfair to tell people who are reporting into us to say, hey, you should take some time off, take care of your mental health, when I'm not doing that myself, right? And we have to practice what we preach. So it'll make it okay for people who are reporting into us as well to feel like it's safe for them to take time off, that they don't feel guilty when they need to take, they need to take care of themselves, because when they see their leaders capable of doing that as well, like, makes it a safer environment for them to be able to rest up when they need the rest. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have another question here. Like a lot of you have been in the industry for a while, right? Like, what has been the thing that has kept you all these years, despite like the crunch culture or the studio closures or X or Y thing? Like we all know how difficult this industry can be. What is the thing that like keeps you in?
The people I work with. This culture of making video games attracts a really interesting culture of people, for the most part, by and large. Women are what, 20% of the total developers at this point. From the perspective of being female, what I can tell you is the tough ass bitches who can stick this out are really interesting for a friend bunch.
So in terms of meeting new people and networking amidst COVID, how do you navigate online meetups or networking amidst nationwide quarantine?
Sign up for IDGA. And I would like to say, as a man, I loved going to all the Get Wiggy events. I learned so much. I learned how to appreciate, I learned how to conversate, and I also learned about the cool other words that she used that had stuck in the game. Yep.
All right, we have a question for you, Tramell, in specific, actually. So they are asking, what are some of the games that impacted you early and made you feel that art was your jam? They are trying to figure out how they can find their place in games.
I think earlier on when I worked on Fallout and Fallout 2, and being able to create the Vault Boy, that for me at the time was just a job. It was an assignment that was given to me, and I completed to the best of my ability at the time. But who would have known? Like 24 years later, Vault Boy is like world renowned and stuff, right? But I think that experience going from Fallout to a little known game called Descent to Undermountain, a D&D game that we worked on at Interplay. Bill, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's probably one of the worst games in history, but I think that experience, like, again, my drive to be whatever at that time was on tilt. I was just, absorbing everything I possibly could, learning as much as I possibly could. So going from Fallout and going to Descent to Undermountain, to take that and finish it up. One of the things that at Interplay, every artist at Interplay had touched Descent to Undermountain at some point in time. And between 1 and 2, Fallout 1 and 2, they were like, all right, well, take this game and finish it and get it out the door. It was me, a designer, and 2 programmers. And we had to ship this game ourselves, which meant that I had to do stuff that I wasn't familiar with, doing things that are different and new, like Bill said. So I was doing a bunch of stuff, and that basically prepared me for a lead position on the next Fallout product because of that experience, and because of that loop, that internal loop from going from Fallout 1, from Descent to Undermountain and Fallout 2, that was the thing that sparked, okay, I can do this, and these are the things that I need to do. And if I take every opportunity and approach it with the same level of intensity and importance, then I can be successful. And I think that was the thing that kind of turned me into, like, turn that machine on for me, that whole experience. And I think it was like 90, 96, 97, 98, like that 3-year span just kind of changed the way I saw the game industry.
We have another question here. Are internships common in industry during online office culture? And I'm curious for anyone that's here that's brought on juniors or run an internship over the past 8 months or so, what your experience with that has been. Bill, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We just finished with like some amazing interns, just wrapping them up, which was really fantastic. We worked with DigiPen up here in Seattle, like got some incredible people. One of the things I love, and to touch back on some previous questions, like that keeps me coming in this industry, is not just the people that I get to work with and the like incredible folks who've been around, but like all the new people that are coming in, right? Completely different viewpoints, completely different ideas, completely different upbringings, completely different influences and inspirations, and getting to really just experience that and draft on that. So we fortunately got to talk to some of those folks before shelter in place was happening. But we've hired junior level people, associate level people, brought the interns in. The weirdest thing, and this got brought up by the interns, is that they went through an entire intern season basically with us and never got to actually meet physically any of us. And that was kind of a bummer. So on their kind of like last day, Serena, our CEO, and Jason, our chief product officer, and a few other people like went to a park where they could like do a big socially distanced thing, and at least got to like see each other and try to do like, you know, some kind of, look, we're actually real people. We don't just exist in tiny windows on your computer. But you know, it's a huge learning curve, you know, trying to like run a studio and run teams. And I mean, even like be creative in this setting, right? I'm an extrovert. I do really, really well when I'm really close and connected to people and can vibe off their energy. So this is like the worst possible thing for me, but it was fantastic to just get in discussion groups, get in Zoom meetings, jam on documents, whatever it was, with bringing in interns and bringing in junior level people. And it shouldn't, this current situation shouldn't prevent us from doing that. In fact, I actually think it's like more important, right? Because I needed that energy, that, you know, when you're working with a bunch of people that have made a bunch of games and have been around for a long time, it's pretty easy to just like, oh, I'm going to hunker down and do my thing now, and I'll see it stand up tomorrow. Right? Like I wanted people that were like banging on my virtual door. Like, I've got this crazy idea for we got to talk about it now. Like, let's get in a Zoom call. Like, yes, that sounds awesome. So yeah, we did it. It was really successful. You know, we made offers to a couple of them that decided, because of the way things are right now, they weren't going to get as much out of doing school virtually as they were when they were actually going in. And, but they like working with us. So that, you know, I think it really paid off. So yeah, we've done it. And I would encourage, you know, any studio to maintain, and in fact, probably lean into things like internships. Cause it's a great thing to do.
I'd like to add one thing to that, which is I've been working in a virtual studio since 2011. My team is spread across the world. I have a team in Asia. I have a team across Latin America. This works fine. We've run a very successful business doing this. The company I worked for before and the company I'm running now. This is entirely doable. We've had people approach us to say, I really like the games that you make. I'm interested in working with you. We fix it by fixing it so even if we're across time zones, we have at least 6 hours a day where we're all basically online together. We all was Google Docs. Slack is incredibly useful. It is entirely possible to run a successful business online. The fact that the rest of the world is starting to understand this is a good thing.
We have time for one more question, Sarah.
I think we've got time for a couple more.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, we kind of touched a little bit on this, but how do you deal with ageism in the industry? I know that Kelly mentioned a little bit about that. So.
It's a thing. I'll start as the old guy. It's a thing. It's a real thing. And like one of the people at our studio has been in the games industry for, you know, like well over 25, 30 years, right? Was the creator and co-creator of, and I'll try to leave them a bit anonymous, of if I mention the game, she'd be like, oh yeah, I know that game. I know that series. It's awesome. They were driving an Uber because they would do job interviews. They would, you know, whether it send in resumes, do design work, you know, submit things as part of their interview process. And then when they actually went in for the live interview, they could see me like, oh, you're old. Yeah, it's really strange. Like I feel fortunate because I'm just had the ability to be able to go and say like Kelly did, like I'm going to go start a thing, right? Because I was at the point where I would apply for jobs at one point before I went to London, and the feedback I get is like, oh, why do you want to come do that? You've done all this other stuff. You know, like, I don't think we're everything is going to be interesting for you. Like, I wouldn't want this job if I didn't think it was interesting. Like, I want to do this. But there becomes a mindset either that you're not connected enough to what people want to be playing today, that you're too experienced, right? That you're going to get bored if they hire you because it's not a big enough important job and you're going to leave. Like they layer a bunch of stuff onto you when you get past a certain age. Yeah, that really sucks. So I like hiring everybody. I like really young people. I like old people. I like, every gender, race, representation. I don't care. Like, I want talent and I want people that love what they're doing and are passionate about it. But yeah, ageism, it is a thing. It is a thing.
All across the board.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've been fortunate enough that I have to deal with it so much. But come on, Bill, you fucking Bill Roper. Come on, dog. Like,
dude, I'm telling you, I applied for a position like 3 years ago to go up and at a company to lead a narrative design group, and they're like, "Wow, you were at Disney and you did this and that." And like,
no, that's what I'm saying. That they're looking at you as like this dude that did it all, and they're like, "Why the fuck would you want to hang out with us?" That's what that is. Like, people fanning out over you, man. Like, you got to understand your power and your position in this industry. Like let's not kid ourselves. Everybody knows who you are. So like when you show up on somebody's doorstep, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you'd be like the nerdy dude trying to ask the hot chick out for prom." That's basically who they are and shit. Like, you're the hot chick in this.
I'm always the nerdy dude, though. I'm always the nerdy dude. And Tramell, you haven't faced it because, trust me, brother, you look like you're about like 30. So I mean, I just went. I went.
That's
with
all
it.
The tricks, dude. I gotta keep the facade up,
Can I add in from the acting standpoint?
Yeah.
I can't say the name of the game, but I can say, because I'm cool with the developers, they had to not utilize me for something that is future, that is going to come out. And it was a little bit that I had kind of aged out. But the people that they brought in, one was younger than me, one was older than me. And I was like, so what did I say the wrong slang word? Did I say dope too much? Did I say, was I supposed to say lit when I said dope? Oh my God, I'm sorry. Was I supposed to say litty? I know the slang. If you teach it to me, put it on the paper, man. I can do it. And I've tried to keep myself from not leaning into my deeper Keith David register. I want Keith to work forever. So I leave that to Keith unless I need to for some projects. I try to keep a youthful thing, but you'd be surprised, man. Women, men, people, they put it on our casting sheets, and it's not you guys' fault because you guys have what you have in mind for your particular project. But the pressure's on when it says 25 to 35. We need real people, no fake people. We don't want nobody faking the funk. It's like, no, I still feel young. Halle Berry still looks 25, man. What? Come on, dude. Selma Hayek still looks like came out of college. Come on. George Clooney's still the best looking guy out there. What are you talking about?
Before we move to the next question, I just want to remind people on Twitch that the poll to vote for the charity for this panel is posted in the Twitch chat. So you should take a look at that and vote for the charity that you want to receive $500. I'm going to move to our next question. What is the biggest impression of the games industry currently, specifically, if possible, to aspects of inclusion and people breaking into the industry? This is kind of a big question, so if multiple people want to take it, that's fine. I think I can kind of pick out, like, specifically what is going on for inclusion in the industry right now is kind of what I'm getting for this, or what are industry trends that you see right now?
I think we still got a long way to go. Ling, I'm gonna pick on your Ubisoft company for a little bit. When Watch Dogs 2 came out, and I was a huge Watch Dogs fan from the first one, and they decided to make the main character black. They did the character a disservice because he was only black in his facade. That's it. Like, there was nothing that made him black or feel like a black person. And I think that was one of the reasons why that character kind of fell on his face, because the industry tries to play it too safe. Like there are some, some things that are inherently a part of my experience as a Black person, or a Black person's experience, that need to be attached to that character in order for it to feel real. I had an experience when I was working at Boss Key. Our sound director was, writing lines for one of the characters, and I read some of the lines, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he was writing them as a Black person. I was like, what are you doing? Like, just write the lines as you would and have a Black person say them, and they will automatically know that that's a Black person. You don't even have to put the slang and the jive and all this other bullshit in there. Just write the lines as you would for yourself, and have someone from that culture say those lines. And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, you'll be like, that's a Black dude speaking. Because people bring that to the character. So with Watch Dogs 2, I didn't feel that with that character, mainly because I think in essence, they was like, oh, they were getting a lot of heat from having a Black character, which is kind of strange that people would get all bent out of shape. Oh, I don't want to play a Black guy. Like, okay, cool, that's fine. But then when it came to the screen, it didn't register with Black folks or white people. So it's just like, you fell flat on it. So I think the industry needs to get over itself. And, truth be told, Mafia 3 is a damn good game. They lean in on some stereotypes. Okay, that's fine. But they don't do it to the detriment of the product. And they're not doing it to degrade or make fun of a particular culture. So I think there's ways to have inclusive content without being offensive or playing it too safe, where it ends up just being kind of this milquetoast version of what it's actually supposed to be.
I have to jump in because I worked on Watch Dogs too, and I absolutely agree with Tramell. And it's like it's a fantastic point on why diversity has a lot of work still to do, and the importance of having and telling authentic stories by having those voices at the table, right? Diversity isn't just letting people into the room and having a diverse crowd, but it's also having their voices heard when they speak, right? And allowing them to make the shots and allowing them to have an impact into the direction of the products that we build. So, and when we talk about diversity, like we touched on so many different aspects and all the different ways diversity can take, different shapes and form, whether it's age, whether it's our race, our gender, etc. All of these come in and impact the actual experiences that we're trying to build for our players. And it's not fair when we co-opt people's stories or experiences as our own and try to build experiences out of that, right? Like the best way to build these sorts of experiences is to have those voices present in the products that we're trying to build. So that's a fantastic point, Tramell.
Can I add to that from Tramell? Yo, write the lines like people, because we are people. You don't have to say something like I just said before. I don't have to say Liddy. You don't have to write it. I'm gonna add it in if you give me. I got a free take. Give me a free take. I'll put my own spice on it, but let me talk. I had somebody, and I can't say their name because God bless their soul. They put money in my pocket, so I'm not mad at them. But this is a game from the mid 2000s for well-known overseas in Asia. It's very, 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 very great company. A lot of people like them for the action games, and they wrote a lot of Lil Wayne-esque lines for me. And I was like, I've been to New Orleans. I didn't do that. And here goes the thing. The way that you hear all of us speaking right now, no matter what our cultural backgrounds, this is how we talk. I was raised off of watching cable and Jack Benny and George Burns and the Cosby Show. So I may not have the same, way of talking that the average person may have that grew up deep in the Delta, and that's how their family speaks. But it doesn't make any of us any less. This is just how we speak. It's just a tone. But the only problem I'm having is I like Watch Dogs 2. Am I just affected because he's black? Am I doing us a disservice? Because I've been playing the crap out of it. Like, this is so dope. This dude is black.
I'm taking you off my LinkedIn. You ruined it.
No.
Ruined it for us all.
Am I ruining it for the culture?
You destroyed it for us all.
I'm sorry. I'll fix that. I'll talk a lot of crap in my stream. I'm gonna now say Tramell and May said. Should I beware of origins as well? Am I just caught by the color? Just the Crayola? Did that just change I'm sorry, everybody. But I did think the game was cool at a certain point, but he's right. But I also give a little bit to the nerd side of me that like how you hear us talking here is like, the inner nerd in me. I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I gave him as the excuse for a lot of stuff. So now I'm going to start looking with glasses.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
May, I'd like to know, what was the conversation like internally when they were creating that character? Were there any Black folks anywhere in the vicinity, adding something to the conversation? I'd like to know that, like, if that was actually the case, and if it was,
has the NDA. She has the NDA.
Oh, no, she don't. She's working Stadia now, dude. She ain't gotta protect Ubisoft now. Come on, give me the dirt.
I think that like, the point I was making about, it's not enough to just have like a diverse folk, like a diverse collection of people in the room working on the game, because I think like we did have like, a big blend of like, people from different backgrounds in the team. And I think that the key point is whether they had a say in the story, whether they had a say in the creation of the character or not. And for example, as a designer, I designed the multiplayer side of things, right? I was not involved at all in terms of the creation of the world and the character and the narrative, right? Looking back, if I had any idea that this was the path that we were going down on, I would have, spoken up and it's like, hey, have you actually done a pass of this character with some Black folks, right? It's not that hard to just, get an authenticity check with people in the team. They're sitting right there, just walk up to them and check with them if it works out for them. So like, I think, having and being self-aware enough to include those voices in the development of those characters will hopefully create something that's a lot more authentic. It's not just like, yeah, we have like, X number of developers of, this background, X number of developers, like, do they have a say in the product that you're building? I think that makes the difference, most importantly.
Stick a pencil in that one. Give people the voice, give them a voice and a say so at the end.
So we're out of time. Unfortunately, we're going to end here, but this is amazing conversation, and thank you all for being here. I want to go around one last time and just have you say like if you have any plugs for things you're working on, or have links to like where people can find you or the content you're working on. And I'm going to go in order of who's on my screen. So Bill, you're first.
Yes, well, you can find me on LinkedIn under the really difficult moniker of Bill Roper. It's a tough one, at Bill Roper. And please check out AuthorDigital.com and Adept.games. We do have some positions we're hiring for. Got some cool announcements coming up. Find me on LinkedIn. I have a like really bland generic name, so you could probably find me. And I just love talking with everybody. And now I'm like compelled to try to work with everybody on this panel, which is like my absolute best takeaway from this, because this was just awesome.
Tramell.
All right. Yeah, Predator Hunting Grounds is out. We just released 87 Dutch. So anybody wanting to play Dutch from 1987, go out there and pick the game up. It's loads of fun, PC and PS4. And of course, we're always looking for good talent. Whatever skill set you are on the tech art or art side of things, just hit me up at PS_Trey on Twitter, or you can visit IllFonic.com and hit us up and watch, the job postings as they pop up. Again, we're always looking for good people. Doesn't matter who you are. I'm all about the skills. So if you got the skills, you got the opportunity to work with a great team that we have at IllFonic. And appreciate you guys having me. It's definitely been fun. Bill, you got to understand, dude, you're a legend in this game, dude. Start using that power for evil or something.
I'm trying to use it for good, man. But how about
every once in a while, you got to get a little bit of
shenanigans?
To get your devil horns going. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us. And Watch Dogs 2, man.
Thanks, Tramell. Kelly, you're next.
Oh man, you guys are hilarious. This has been so much fun.
Oh.
Compelled to find a way to work with each and every one of you. You can find me at Kelly C. Devine practically anywhere, and we are super secret Plan A. Never need Plan B. Make all kinds of art assets for all kinds of things. The last thing I would say, besides thank you, this has been a delight, is with regard to the ageism thing, look at it this way. If everything goes well, everybody's going to get old.
Thanks, Kelly. Ling.
It's wise words from Kelly in this pandemic. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. It's really been an honor. It's incredible to be speaking amongst such industry legends. I just want to plug my company, which I kind of did earlier on. We're a growing team at Google Stadia, and we're constantly looking for really diverse and interesting folks to come work with us. So keep an eye out for our job postings. We have studios stateside, we have studios in Canada. I would love to work with any of you any day. And I'll make sure that the next game I work on will do right by Tramell.
And Arif S. Kinchen.
Hey, you can find me every weekday on Twitch at twitch.tv/ASK Blood Drive. That's the philanthropy side of us in our advancement toward the future. We have a nonprofit and we raise money for Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. So hopefully somebody will help us if you have the money. And right now, a lot of people are broke, so we understand that. But at least if you learn about helping out pediatric cancer and donating blood at your local children's hospital, that is gift enough. And the next game coming up, I have an NDA, so I can't say anything. But I thank Cammie for the pleasure of being here. And I swear to you, I'm inspired by Tramell. I'm inspired by May. I'm inspired by Kelly. But Bill, I still have some of my Disney Infinity unopened. My son and daughter play that. They don't play it. They play that. Oh, my Black Panther still is unopened.
Tramell, I'm going to go to the dark side. You've pushed me.
Come on, Anakin, keep it light. Keep it light. But thank you guys so much. Sarah, Fernando, amazing host, amazing moderators. Thank you guys for the opportunity and letting me get in here.
Reef, what's your kid's favorite characters?
He loves playing he likes Sadness and Aladdin. Sadness, Aladdin, and Lightning McQueen. I don't know where it goes together, but it goes.
I'm gonna show a thing on the stream. Like, keep talking, but I'm gonna show a thing.
Okay.
Kids, hang on. Behind me on my shelf. This is a prototype that we never released of the Frozen
hold the phone.
Reader set. This is why you make games. This is exactly why, by the way.
Come here. Look. It's unreleased for Disney Infinity. Hold on.
Dad, I thought you.
No, that's the guy. That guy worked on the game.
Hurt yourself more.
Okay. Bye. Okay.
The Dad of the Year. There you go.
Thank you, Bill. And that was my wife slapping me.
That's awesome. I hope he just made his night. I want to pass this off to Benjamin now to close us out. If we have news for our next panel next month or results from our charity vote.
Oh, that is a great question here. Let me pull some information. Tonight's charity vote, we actually had a tie, amazingly, between Girls Makes Game and POC in Play. So we'll be doing a $250 donation to each of them. And then give me a moment and I will pull up the information for next month. All right. Yeah, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, if you have the information, go ahead. I was gonna fill the space if you were still looking.
Oh, no, just pulled it up. So we're gonna be doing the second Tuesday of next month, so October 13th. And it will be on production leadership in video games. And we'll be joined by Donald Harris, JC Lau, Gabriela Ponce, Carlos Sanchez, and Cardell Kerr. Should be really great. So, and then also as a reminder for everyone, this recording will be posted up on YouTube on the IGDA Seattle channel within the next day or so. So please share it around.
And when is the event?
The next one's on October 13th at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
All right, thank you. I'm realizing, just to close this out, Fernando, if you have anywhere that we can find you or things that you are working on, you should plug them here as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I really had a fun time talking with everyone here. Thanks to all the organizers of the panel. You can find me on Twitter at @It'sAMeFernando or LinkedIn. I think that's also a good way of finding me. My name is, I think there's not a lot of Fernando Reyes that make games, so I hope that you will find me easily. If you are interested in seeing what Latinos are doing in the game industry, also follow @Latinos in Gaming on Twitter. We are always doing a lot of stuff for the community, and we have a bunch of games from all the world, right? Like all Latin America and the US, we represent the community all over the world. So please check it out if you want to make some cool Latinx developers. And Halo is going to be good, I promise.
Tell them about your Twitch channel, Fernando. Tell them about the Twitch channel for Latins and Gaming. Tell them about it.
Yeah, that's also a thing. I think it's twitch.tv.
Latinx game, right?
Latinx games.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so we're always having events like this, right? Like panels, other stuff. So just follow us everywhere, and you'll know what's going on. Yeah.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of our panel, and Terry is going to take us out, I think. Thank you all for coming, and I hope to keep in touch with you all, and we'll be doing this again next month.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.